hit the record button. So I'm recording now. So don't say any bad words out loud. You can think them if you want. But in our documentation at demo.tributemedia.com and under this typography and colors, as you scroll down on the page, um, you will find how your colors and your branding interacts with the theme. And there are even little videos in here. Now some of the things that we'll talk about today will probably be a perfect overlap with these videos, but we might talk about some things that aren't related. But if you are interested in kind of seeing how headings work, for example, you can click on the video and you can play the video. And if you get bored of my voice today, you'll really get bored of my voice after seeing the videos, because it's my voice on the videos. But every primary or every main element that your website might include is listed here, including how buttons might work. And so you've got different buttons that you can apply. And again, you can even see videos on how to style links in the buttons. And we'll show you a few of those things as we talk about content management. We also have content and block types. So under client documentation, content and block types, we've got these little quick links here to go from page to page, or on the main client documentation page, you can come back to content and block types. Now, content type is simply a unique form of content for your site, and it's usually indicated by how the form is filled out. So we've got these different content types, and we're going to talk about two different content types in our training. We're going to talk a little bit about the article content type and the landing page, and we might even talk actually about the pillar page as we kind of go through those. Probably be a good idea for you to understand how those work. But you can see sample pages, you can see the videos. Block types we'll also talk just a little bit about. Block types are definitely a new Drupal 8 feature. Drupal 7 doesn't have anything like this. It's among the coolest things about Drupal 8 and beyond. And we can create custom little blocks that can fit anywhere on your page and simplified. And I'll show you a little bit later how to create one block. The most common is the card block type, so I'll show you that at some point today. But some of these have little links to them. You can scroll down and you can see a sample of how they work. So if you want to kind of take some time at demo.tributemedia.com and look through this documentation, you'll be able to see how these different block types work, and you can even watch some videos in here of how some of them might come together. So we've got these block types here that'll give you some indication. And then the last thing I wanted to show you is this iconography. The new Drupal 8 sites have built in all sorts of icons that you can add to buttons and to text. And we've got videos here. I won't show you that today, but I do want to show you that we've got the videos here on our Drupal 8 sites. You'll be able to use these little icons in buttons. You'll be able to use them in text. You can even use them in the middle of a paragraph, and that's a pretty cool approach. Now I'm gonna pull away from demo.tributemedia.com and just go to a different version of it that I set up just for training, so I can add pages and not mess up our demo site. Okay, so it looks the same, but it's actually my test site here. So most of our websites, and you probably know this now, can be accessed by scrolling to the very bottom and clicking the login button. If for some reason the login button is there, it's probably by design. We've been asked, or we designed for some reason, to remove that login button. But that's okay, because if you just come up to the top to the URL and type in /user, so if your website is, polyurethane.com, because I know that someone out there probably got that. But whatever your website is, you would push /user at the end, and it would take you then automatically to the user login page. If you don't know your username, you can go ahead and click here to reset your password, and as long as your email is in the system, then you can submit it and it will send you a reset link. If you don't have a login, then go ahead and contact our support at tributemedia.com/support, and I'll show you that afterwards. We do ask that you request from your own domain name. So, if you're with, Baycopy or something like that, and you want a new login, then make sure you're using your baycopy.com email address. We've actually had situations in the past where we've had clients leave, or customers leave, employees leave, and then ask for a login and to try and get in and mess things up. So we, just to be safe, you have to, if we don't know you directly, then we want to make sure that we keep things secure for you. So I'm going to log in with my fancy, I got to get the right password, tech support login. And this is what your website is going to look like after you log in. You're going to have all these options up at the top. It's going to land on your default user page. You could actually come in here to edit and change your password if you want, right? So we can come in, you type in your current password, you can change your email address if you want, your username, whatever you want in here, and then you save at the bottom. Happen to have a security update. I'm not going to worry about that for this meeting. This was built a few days ago, and security updates come out on a regular basis. One of the things we do when you are hosting with us is we maintain all the important security updates. There are minor security updates and there are major updates. The major updates happen immediately. The minor updates go into a rotation cycle to keep everything secure. Now, I mentioned that on the demo site, you can come in here to client documentation and find some documentation, but this URL won't exist on your website. But if you come up here to the top under shortcuts on your Drupal 8 sites, anything built in the last year to year and a half, you're going to have this Tribute Media Support button. And when you click on Tribute Media Support, it's going to show documentation related specifically to you. So it may have more or less information than what the demo site has. So if we've created, for example, a custom content type only for you, then you will see that additional content type listed in the content type areas with some description of what it is. If we've created some custom block types for you, you will also find them here. What's also nice is on the typography page, all of this will be updated to be your website brand colors, your buttons. It will show how your brand interacts. So if you have a newer Drupal 8 site and haven't had the opportunity to look at that. But again, older Drupal 8 sites didn't have this, so that's why we have the client documentation publicly available at demo.tributemedia.com. But if we stay up here on the manage and we've got this whole list across the top here, the first thing I want to talk about is managing content and content organization. So managing content, the easiest place is to come up to your content button up here at the top, and you can see all the content listed on your site. It will even show if something is unpublished, it will show it as unpublished here, but you'll be able to visualize it. If you know what content type it is, so blog posts are articles. So if we wanted to look for a blog post, I could actually click that and filter down, and I could see all the blog posts that I've written for the site. If I know the title of the page, let's say I know a part of the page title, I can actually find it that way. Let's look for a title that we can filter down. Let's look for careers. So I can actually filter down to careers and I can see that page. I can edit straight from here. I can delete it if I want to or clone it. Or I could just go to that page if I need to. So this is just a little sample page that I have here. The other part of managing content is the organization of these menus and how these menus fit together. So if we go under structure, we've got our menus all listed here. Um, as you might guess, the main menu, the main navigation, would be considered main navigation. We think that it's a pretty easy thing to understand that your main menu, your main navigation is called main navigation. We didn't want to think of any fancy name for that. So main navigation is where you're almost always going to manage your navigation menu. There may be other menus and that are listed depending on what we're trying to do to set up your site. But if I click here on main navigation, you can see the menu here. What's really nice about this is I can hide or show. So if I want to temporarily remove a link, then I can just hide it for the short term. If I want to permanently delete it, I can actually delete it from here. Or if I want to move things around, I can grab these little crosshairs and I can drag them to any point that I want. So I'm going to just move this around so client documentation for my test site shows up at the very end. And then I will, now what we'll see immediately is that content is reorganized. Sometimes we add footer links in here or a footer menu. Sometimes that's handled through a menu. If you're ever confused as to where to go to manage this content, just send us a little chat message, and I'll show you at tributemedia.com how to find that towards the end. I mentioned earlier about block types. Block types allow for a simplified way to manage various bits of content. We talk about menus here, and we could certainly put a menu up here, but the problem with just using the basic menu feature is you can't get little icons in there. That menu feature doesn't do it. So we created what we call a little block type. And the block type, let me just refresh my screen, make sure everything's showing up. The block types allow for managing content. Now typically you'll find, and I've got a little problem here and I'm not sure what's going on, we'll figure it out later, but there will be a little pencil icon to edit. But if for some reason there's a challenge that prevents it, I'm going to show you how, like I'm experiencing now. You can find your blocks under your custom block library. So under structure, block layout, custom block library, I want to find those social links up at the top. And we've got all these custom blocks that we've built, or we might have built. So we've got the header social links. We also try and name them in such a way that they make sense. But you can see that the block type here is a social link. That's one of those custom block types that we found from the documentation. And I can edit that. And you can see that this one was Twitter. This one was Facebook. Right? And this one was LinkedIn. But we also have, under these link settings, different link icons that we can do. So you can have, no link icon. It would just say Twitter. In fact, I'll save that so you can see it. And you can also have either a light dark icon, usually white, or a dark icon, usually like a real dark gray, almost black. Or the default, which is just going to be the default color of whatever that icon would be. With no icon, obviously this doesn't matter. But if I change Twitter to be no icon, and then I go back to the home page, you can see Twitter is no longer an icon. Now some of this again you can find under client documentation. Under content and block types, you can watch the videos there for a little more detail on how that's managed. Now, the most important part about any content management system is going to be creating new pages and editing those pages. So we've already talked about editing pages. Under content, you could find the page and edit it. You could also browse to the page. So let's say, for instance, I'm going to want to edit a blog post. I can go to the blog, click on my actual blog post, and then an edit button will appear. And what's nice is the form to edit a page looks the same as a form to create a page. So if I were to edit this page, this is the same form, it just has all the stuff pre-populated. And when I hit save, it will allow us to see those changes. I'm going to go ahead and create a new page. I'm going to go ahead and create a new blog post, which is an article. Oftentimes, anytime something is kind of ongoing and timely, we would use the article. So if it was a news post, then we probably would use the article. Some of our clients want to have news and blog as separate items. So we might have an extra tab to categorize, for example, or sometimes we'll give you additional documentation for how we set that up, so that maybe if you type in news as the tag, it would automatically create a different page. All that's so customizable. It's hard for me to say exactly what's going to make sense for you, but any questions you can always send us a chat at tributmedia.com, and as a reminder, I'll show you how that works. So, yeah, gotta type. Okay, so most of our page types have a banner image, and there are two different ways that those banners will appear. One is at top of the content, and one is across the entire banner region. In fact, I'm going to go into our blog post real quick and show you. So I don't remember if I've got. So that's top of content. You can see it's just sitting right at the top of the content. That's the banner region. So that shows how that image will appear in the banner region. And I am actually just going to save that image so I've got something to use. Save. Okay. So you have the option. Now, usually what we'll do is your site is going to be designed from a theme perspective, where by default we either want that at the top of the content or we want the full banner. But you can change it. So even if we have it, the default is saved to banner region, you can always change that. You'll simply choose your file here, and then find your image, and then you want to give the alternative text. This is very important. Make it required, because search engines particularly want to see it. Make this somewhere, it could be as little as one word, but maybe 4 or 5 words. This is what the search engines and what screen readers will see, particularly on the search engine side. This is the way that they know. This is how they will know what the image actually is when they run their search box over your page. So then you can, of course, add any bit of content that you want. Let's just get some fake content. I'll grab it from here. And then, of course, any tags that you might want. I tagged this one news already. Social sharing is also pretty cool. If you don't want to have social sharing, you can remove it. But you can also redirect them to a different page. So as an example, if you have a thank you page for a form that someone fills out, and you want to put a share icon or share link on the bottom of your thank you page, you don't want to share your thank you page, you want to share the form, and so you can actually have it redirect. And you can actually see we've got some documentation down here of what that button actually means. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save on this. I think I've got all the fields filled out. And there it is. So I had the top of content. There's the share. And you can even test. You can see that when you hit that button, it's going to create it. If I put an alternative link up there, it would show this alternative link, and you can make we can make this text be anything you want if you need to. Same thing for Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever it might be. Now, if I would like to change that banner to be across the entire page, I can just change that to banner region, hit save, and away we go. And there it is now across the entire region. And it is fully responsive to to mobile browsers. Actually, when it gets to a smaller screen size, it's actually using it. It resizes the image itself. So if someone were to load it on a mobile device, they're not going to have to worry about how to that image is going to be too big. So one of the things we think about in adding images is, what if we want that image to be inside here? That is a slightly different process because we don't have an actual image upload button. We've got to actually get it somewhere in the center of the content. So let's say, for instance, I want this image to appear here. I can, and by the way, in this part right here, I've also got a video on how to manage images. So if you go to your documentation under support, you will find this there. But we're going to go ahead and add an image. So you're going to look for the little fancy image button, and it will let us upload an image right there. If you know the URL, most people don't, you can put the URL there. Most people will need to click on the file browser, and if you already have uploaded the image, then it will be, you could find it here. If you don't know if you don't have the image here, you can actually click the upload button and add the file, and then you'll find the file and you can upload it. I'm going to go ahead and use this this lamps image here, and I'm going to select that, and it'll put the URL in there for you. So then you can add additional classes here if you know what you're doing. If you don't, you can just ignore that and save. Now, if I hit save on this, by default, it's just going to show it here. It'll actually show it full width, right? This just happens to be as big as that image is. Now, we may want that image to have text wrap around it. Unfortunately, this is a little, or can be a little finicky. My preferred way is just to hit like the little alignment button there. So if I undo it and I've got the image, I selected it by clicking the image once, and I hit the little alignment button right there in the middle, and I hit save. Let's see if that works. Sometimes it can be a little finicky. Okay, didn't like that one. And this, unfortunately, something that just requires a little bit more extra effort. So we're going to try another approach. I'm going to do float left. If this works the way I think it's going to work, then I'll show you what it's actually doing. Yeah, that's how it works. Okay. So unfortunately, editors are a little finicky in getting things to wrap the way we want. If there's anything you want to maybe take a little screenshot of or watch this video afterwards, it's going to be how this little image works with the float. It is something that we're trying to figure out. It's a problem in the system, and every editor kind of functions a little differently. But the way I got this little thing to pop back up was I just double clicked. So if I just double click on that, it opens up. If I click it once and then click the little image icon, it will also open up, but it's faster just to double click. Under advanced, I just have float, which allows it to shift, and then float right or float left, and save. And you may not be able to visualize it here, but when you hit the save button, it will automatically be floating with the text around it. Now, one thing we've learned over the years, that the best and most important thing to do with images is you want to size them to what you want them to be before you upload them. Now, the system can do it. We can make it work in these paragraphs, but you're going to get the best quality image if I crop it first. And in failing that, you'll at least get the best sized image. You know, I mentioned that this image up here in the banner will resize based on the size of screen. And that means that the pixels will reduce. So on a smaller screen, the pixels, there'll actually be fewer pixels. On this, those pixels won't be fewer. So we don't want a big monster image that we use the system to resize. We actually want to cut that image to be sized. Now, sometimes we want to have these images here, and we want things to wrap in this way because we want some sort of design element, or we want to break up content. Oftentimes, there's a better way to do it. Now, for a blog, this is what you get, right? But we may want to have a more in-depth page, and there's a concept called a pillar page. And a pillar page is a collection of content that allows the search engines to understand better the type of content on the site. Now, if you go to demo.tributmedia.com under the TM samples to the pillar page right there, this is actually going to go into pretty deep discussion on what a pillar page is, why you use it, how it works. And I would recommend that you take a little bit of time after this to kind of read through this page from demo.tributmedia.com under the samples to understand how a pillar page works. So one thing that's, other than the fact that there's some significant SEO benefit to the way this pillar page is set up, it also allows for design components where I can get these images into boxes. I can get internal banner images. I'm going to show you how to create one here in just maybe 60 seconds or so. But I can put in, you know, icons. I can get little buttons here, and gives me some great definition on how these pillar pages work. So we're going to go back here. You've got a pillar page content type. We call it pillar navigation page. So a pillar navigation page has the same banner image that we did before. So we can still use a banner image. So I'll just put the same banner image in there. Okay. Then we still have the same content area. This is the content area that goes at the top of the page. So if we go to our sample, I've got the banner image here. I've got content. In fact, I just uploaded this as an image in that top content section. So, okay, let me just grab some of this content just so I have something to work with. And I can add images. I can add anything that I want in here. So if I grabbed another image, in fact, that's the same image. That's the infographic. So I'll select that. And then, because of the type of image, I have to give some width and height. I'll do that later. Now, this is where the excitement really comes in. Is we have these additional sections. I'm going to show you the sample again. So we've got these additional sections. I've got a homepage section. I've got a pillar navigation section. I've got a pillar resource section. I've got just kind of a banner section type. I can now create first section. And notice that there is some text here to give you some information. So don't hesitate to read the text there. That'll give you lots of training and information. But I can now add detail title. But I have these different modes that I can put it in. And you'll notice up here in this green box, it defines, here's what banner mode means, here's what background mode means, and here's what icon mode means. And then it kind of gives you an indication of how it works. So if I wanted to be in banner mode, and then I just add. I'm going to use that same image just because it's easy, because I have it. My mouse battery is dying. That's spectacular. Okay. So I can also make it visible or invisible. This is really nice if I've got a section that needs to live for a certain period of time, but then maybe I want to hide it just for a short period. Maybe it's something that's not applicable for the month of June, for example. So I can actually disable it so that I don't have to delete it completely. I can add links. My documentation page is going to show you how to make these into a button. So we're going to do, everybody needs to go to Google from your website. So Google me. And then the documentation will teach you that you can actually make buttons, how you do that. And then let's see, let's see, maybe you need to fill out the title. Okay. And then you go to the bottom and hit save. So there's my infographic. There's the top. There is the title. I put it in banner mode, and then you've got the little link to Google, and there's the section information. Now, if I wanted to have another section, I can come in here, and I can add a pillar navigation section. What do they call that? Detail title. Call that detail title 1. And we'll call this detail title 2. And I'm going to make this in a background mode. And again, up here it tells you exactly what background mode means. I'm going to use that exact same image. Section 2. And then we're going to go ahead and add just another link, but I'm going to use a different. All right, let's see if I did that right. So, didn't use the right icon. There's icon from the iconography. I'll grab that so you can see what that looks like. But you can see that this is background mode, so it actually appears inside here. Let's go look at my iconography and grab a really cool icon. You can see how that works. That's what I needed with the icon. And again, you can watch the videos from the documentation page to see how this works. So let's edit this. I'm going to show you one other thing that you can do. So let's put that icon in there and see if that works. Then the other thing you can do is, because we've got these little handles, and this is what I really like about the pillar page, is I can move them. I can move them around. So I can. Look, I even misspelled second. Second section. Then save. And now those are moved around, and I've gotten a little rocket icon in there. So I can have little icons in there, and I can move them around, and I can create as many sections as I want. So a pillar page is really a very powerful type of content that allows you to really create some content clusters, some areas. So again, I would recommend that you go to let's see, let's pull demo.tributemedia.com, and this will give you a lot of information from the under TM samples to pillar page of how to create your own pillar filler page on your website. So we've talked about blog posts within articles. We've talked about landing pages. The other very common type of content is going to be your landing pages or your web forms. So let's do, so when we think about, under your client documentation, let me just show you something real quick. So if I come under, your client documentation, and I come to content and block types, and I scroll down, I can actually see examples. So this is going to take you to the example page on your website. So landing page example. One of the most important things, particularly about landing pages for marketing campaigns, is you'll notice that there's no menu across the top. And the idea is we want to drive people directly into the activity, the action that we want them to take. So we want them to fill out this form. And so from a marketing perspective, I don't want the trappings of the menu to prevent them from taking the action. I still want them to have an escape, so they can still click on the icon, or they can still click on some header information. But I really want to force them down. But this landing page also I can organize in a variety of different ways. So again, when we want to create content, I can create add content landing page. I'll just click this edit, since you now know that the form is identical and I don't have to add in new content. You'll notice the banner image is the same, the content section is the same. We now have a web form. We're going to grab one of our existing web forms. Okay, I'm going to show you how to create a web form, or at least show you how to find it. There's all sorts of documentation in there because the web form is such a rich and robust application. So I'll show you in a minute how to find or how to create a new web form there. Generally, we want a small quantity of total forms, because you can use the same form on multiple pages. So if I wanted, from a marketing perspective, to create a download form, I could use the same form every single time, because I can redirect them to a different thank you message if I need to. But the landing page settings is where I can have the form side by side. So you remember from this particular landing page, the form was side by side of the content. Sometimes that works out really well if I have, a reasonable amount of content that it's about the same side by side. But if I've got too much content or too little content, I may want to have the field form stacked, and then it just drops it down below. So if that makes more sense for what you're trying to do, you can do that. The other thing is I can actually turn the navigation on. If it's a contact page, I probably don't want to avoid that site navigation. It makes sense to use a landing page for a contact form, but I will want to have that navigation there. So I can just simply hit that button and turn the navigation back on. And then, of course, you've got your social sharing. If you want to add social sharing, particularly if it's a thank you page, if it's a marketing campaign or marketing page, I definitely recommend having social sharing. I definitely recommend redirecting to a thank you page, and then having that thank you page have social sharing back to the landing page. So that will do that. So hopefully that makes sense. I haven't seen too many questions come through. I think we've answered the questions that have come through. So we're gonna, in a moment, we're gonna actually go into Q&A time. So if there are any questions that have come up, please feel free to ask. So content, a content management system is really about managing content. So it really comes down to the most function that you will do is going to be either in this content menu of adding content or editing content, or sometimes adding blocks to the side page. Now, one of the things I mentioned was how you're going to, what these content block types do. So I mentioned the card block type. So if I come down to my documentation, to content and block types, and I go down to my card block. Now there are videos in here of how to add blocks to a page. So I'm not going to go into great detail on that, because if that's something you're interested in, you can come in, you can add blocks to a page. But I do want to at least show you how a card block works. So because this is the one that you will likely use the most often. So one way that it's often used is on a home page, maybe like 3 blocks or 4 blocks down below the hero banner. That's one block type. That's one block rather. It just happens to have 3 cards. But sometimes you might want to have it as a call to action in the sidebar, and you might want to only use one. So I will come on here to my blocks and add a custom block, and I can create another card block right here. And so if I can do a test block, a card, then I can create a title. I can add an image, or I can add an icon. I'll just use that same image because it's easy to work with. In fact, I have took a screenshot for yesterday's training of this little teeny tiny image. Okay. And text below. You've got links that you can put in, so if it's your call to action link, you could do that. And then card sections, you can have it full width. So for example, if it's just going to be a sidebar, you can do that there. So you've got these little settings here. So so you've got, in fact, it mentions here 100% is best if it's in a sidebar. You can alignment here, some additional padding, and then after you can add additional cards. Since this is a sidebar, we don't want to add additional cards. We just want this one to live right there. But I'll hit save, and then what it will do is it will then ask me where to put it. So I'm going to put it on, let's put it on that careers page that we found earlier. And I'm going to put it in the sidebar. And then and now it shows in the sidebar. So that's how that will work. Okay. So one thing I forgot, I'll have to go back to this web form. I wanted to show you where to find the web forms. Under structure, we've got web forms here. So we come down to web forms, and this is how you're going to create web forms. So you can add a web form here. Now what I love about the web form module is, even though it's a little different icon, you've got videos throughout. So I'm not going to take any time to show you because you've got videos throughout. If I were to, hit the build button and edit this, I've got other videos of all of these different things that, if I'm clicking on things, I've got videos throughout of how to do it. The developer built all these little videos so that you can work through that. So that's how you would create an additional web form to appear in your web form options. Now, one question that came through is, does Drupal 7 create landing page and have select a web form and social media sharing options? So we have built for some clients a landing page feature in Drupal 7. So some of you may have a Drupal 7 landing page. Anymore, creating the landing page is almost as feature is almost as expensive as just upgrading to Drupal 8. So if that's something you don't have, it probably is more cost effective and wiser just to go ahead and upgrade. The web form module in Drupal 7 is a little different. You don't actually create a web form and then access it from a landing page. You just actually create the form right on an individual page. So one of the upgrades in Drupal 8 was the ability to have one web form be applied to multiple pages, rather than having to have a 1-to-1 ratio. So in Drupal 7, if I wanted a contact page, I would create a contact page and build out that web form. And if I had to create 100 download pages, I'd have to create 100 forms. Whereas in Drupal 8, if I want to create 100 download pages, I could actually create one form and apply it to 100 pages. And then social media sharing options in Drupal 7. We've added that a few times to Drupal 7 sites, but usually it was not. By default, it was something that had to be added manually, usually through a block. So if that doesn't completely answer the question for your particular site, then that is kind of a good segue into how you get support. So tributemedia.com. Now, a few of you are actually you're Convergo clients. So you would go to Convergo.com. We are the development partner for Convergo. So you would go to the equivalent page at Convergo.com if you're a Convergo client. But in fact, I'll just show you for those who are Convergo. So I think they're at ConvergoMarketing.com. Yeah, change the URL. There we go. Okay, so Convergo.co. So they've got their chat here. You can also click on support or go to /support. So on Tribute Media, you've got support here. It takes you to /support. On Convergo, you go to support. You'll fill out this form. We actually use our two companies. We use the same support system, but Lindsay Mead on the Convergo side, she's the one who handles the support for Convergo, and Steve on our side is the one who handles it for Tribute Media, and for Tribute Media clients, I think most of you have 30 minutes of support included, but we include 100% chat support. So drop a chat question in here, and even if you're a Convergo client, if you just need a quick question, don't hesitate to come to the Tribute Media side. It's far more important to us that you guys are happy with what you've got and what we've built for you. So just drop a chat in here. If you've got a quick question, we would much prefer to answer that question quickly and keep you happy than worry about anything. In fact, a simple question is usually faster to answer than it is to bill, so we might as well just answer it and not bill it. So don't hesitate, please don't hesitate to drop a note. But if you want something added to your site, if you want some additional personalized training, then just fill out the form. I will say that this support type is really important. There are plenty of times when we are, for example, not in the office. We don't monitor things as readily on Fridays, as an example, either. But if your website is having problems, click this website down button. It sends notifications to us a different way, and we jump on it quickly. If it's a broken link or an image, we're going to jump on that more quickly than if you're just going to add something, change something, or we're going to respond more quickly to an issue with an email notification from web forms than we might if it's just some generic. So make sure you take time on support type, and I think that Convergo's support types are the same. Yeah, they have the exact same because they're using the same form, just on a different page. But don't hesitate, please come to tributemedia.com/support, or use this chat. We do have some videos. These actually are Drupal 7 videos, if I remember correctly. So you can go ahead and look through these video tutorials if that's helpful on the Drupal 7 site. But for the Drupal 8 site, I would definitely recommend. For the newer sites, go to your shortcuts to Tribute Media support. If you're one of the first Drupal 8 sites, then that same documentation can be found at demo.tributemedia.com. Okay, we do have, our schedule time I think was an hour, and we've got about 5 minutes left. I'm happy to answer any additional questions if they happen to come in. I haven't seen any additional questions that I haven't covered yet. So we'll just give you 1 minute to stare at me and think good thoughts, hopefully. But I'd love to, while we're waiting for questions to come in, I'd love your feedback. Was this helpful? If you could drop just a note in the chat. If there's anything that I could do better, explain more clearly, I'd love to hear it. If it's too embarrassing to put in the chat, drop me an email afterwards. In fact, I'm going to put my email in the chat, so that if you need to drop me a note or ask me a question, feel free to let me know. And I'm not seeing any questions come in, so we'll go ahead and wrap this up. If you are typing a question and you're just not getting fast enough, I'll stall for just a moment before I disconnect the call. But if you still miss that question, just go ahead and either send me a quick email text or an email, or the fastest way typically is just to use this chat from tributemedia.com. All right, thank you everybody. I appreciate the time. It is good to have you, and let us know how much better we can help you. Take care.